Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are live with Wed Chat Live. It's me and Laura. Say hello, Laura.
Hello.
And we've also got Pat with us as well. Pat, are you there?
I'm here. Hello.
Awesome. Pat's here as well. Now, can everybody hear us? That's what we need to make sure of. Can you all hear us? So give us a shout out in the comments to make sure that you can hear everything that we're saying and doing at the moment. This is Wed Chat Live. If you've never watched us before, we are going to be talking about all things to do with weddings over the coming weeks with my friend Pat. And tonight we are going to be talking about ceremonies, the mythical ceremony. There are lots of different types out there, so we're going to just break things down for you a little bit. We've still got a black thing on the screen. We've still got the picture on the screen of the... No, is that gone? Okay, right, that's fine. Okay, so, we're going to be talking to you about ceremonies this evening. What types of ceremonies are there? How many have we done? How do you choose music for your ceremonies? Because the thing is, it can all be a little bit confusing, can't it, Patrick?
It can be confusing. It can be confusing indeed, Stephen, yes.
So we're going to talk...
You wanted more than that, didn't you?
Yeah, I did want you to say a little bit more than that, to be honest. Pat, should we mention the mugs? Hang on a minute, Laura hasn't got her mug.
I'm not mentioning... don't mess... I've not got my mug. Have you got your mug? You want to hold your mug up?
You're going to have to get my mug, otherwise I go in.
I can't get my mug. I'm not... I was going to say I'm not suitably
dressed.
I'll
tell the story about the mug.
Tell the story about the mug. So we had a stupid story about the mug.
Steve very excitedly went and ordered some Wed Chat, hashtag Wed Chat Live mugs.
I did indeed.
And mine arrived yesterday morning or this morning. When did it arrive?
Yesterday.
So I arranged to meet Steve in Bradford. Now, although we both live in Bradford, we live at the other side of Bradford to each other. So we met in the middle. And he forgot my mug. So I said, oh, don't worry about it. After we've had some lunch and discussed what we're doing this evening, I'll nip up and follow you up to your house and I'll pick the mug up and then I'll go and do the school run. Then I got chatting to my wife on the phone and I forgot and drove home.
So the mug is still...
That's my mug.
Look,
it's the PGL mug that Henry bought me when he went to PGL.
Do you know, I've got this Wed Chat mug, but every time I take a sip from it, I feel like I should put the logo up like this and just go...
like that. I can't really see you, but it's just all like...
Do you want your mug?
Like
I really do.
Oh, I don't need to get up.
Oh, yeah.
Laura's got her mug. I think, what should we say?
Did she put a nice cup of tea in it?
I don't really drink tea. I kind of haven't grown up to that point in my life yet.
We've got, I think we're rocking some Pepsi in here. No,
in a mug.
We're rocking Wed Chat.
Pepsi in a Wed Chat mug.
It's the only problem is it goes and go on the microphone. Jackie says, why have we got black mugs? Because they're as black as our hearts. No, because Jackie, if you notice, Jackie, the Wed Chat logo is actually white and it wouldn't appear on whites. So that is the reason. Sarah keeps losing sound.
Jackie.
Just reload it, Sarah. Just reload it. Okay, guys, listen, we're going to talk about ceremonies. Let's stop talking about mugs and let's talk about ceremonies. So, there are two types of ceremonies that we're going to talk about this evening. And before I do, I should mention yesterday when we put the video up, one of our supplier friends, Chris Lewis, who's a photographer, said that he had a humanist ceremony, which is actually still a civil ceremony, but they had it up in Scotland where you're allowed to have... Am I right about this? If Chris, if you're watching, is this correct? Now, in Scotland, you're allowed to have a humanist ceremony as a legal binding ceremony. So they went to Scotland to actually have their ceremony. But in England, you've got to have a civil ceremony, but that can't be humanist. It's just got to be completely secular. Or you can have a religious ceremony. Is that right, Chris? Have I got that correct? So what I want to do here is, first of all, when we were chatting to prepare this, is say, Pat, you said you've never done a religious ceremony before. That's right, isn't it?
That's right. I've been to a religious wedding before, but I've never organised the music for one, no.
Whereas I've done quite a few religious ceremonies and civil ceremonies as well. So the way we're going to break this down is, first of all, Pat, can you explain to everybody what the difference between a civil ceremony and a religious ceremony actually is? Or more to the point, what is a civil ceremony, first of all?
Well, a civil ceremony is where you have a registrar conducting the wedding rather than a priest or a minister or a vicar. And you have a very different framework in the sense that your music can't be religious. So it's a non-religious ceremony, and the music has to reflect that.
And also,
that's
at the same time, at a civil ceremony, you have to say certain binding words in order for it to be legal, don't you?
absolutely, yeah.
That's the same as that's the same as a religious ceremony, but the religious ceremony has got more, well, for want of a better expression, it's got more padding on it. Basically, you can have a lot more, and there'll be sort of religious content. But a civil ceremony is something that you're just doing the bare minimum of legal things, and you might have a couple of readings in that as well. But as you say, Pat, absolutely no religious content at all. So when it comes to your music, you were asking about a blacklist earlier, weren't you?
Well, yeah. So I had heard that certain registrars have lists of songs that they approve, and other registrars have lists of songs that aren't approved, so that they can cross-check when you declare an interest to marry and you have a meeting with the registrar. At that point, they will ask you what songs you're going to use at different parts during your ceremony. And my understanding was that I got married in Calderdale, so that did happen in Calderdale. We were asked, and they checked the songs. They didn't check them in front of us. They checked and made sure they'd be okay, and they were like, "Yeah, no, they're absolutely fine." But my understanding was that was checked off a list, whether it's a for or against list, as it were. And that was more hearsay. It was more of an industry hearsay.
Yeah.
Nobody's actually
I think
officially declared that to me at any point.
It's like an urban legend.
I will ask a registrar next time I see a registrar.
They have a list down at the office, and if any of these songs come up on the list, the very fabric of the universe goes around and around and out until we all die in a black hole.
I don't think it's that dramatic, but I've never heard of a list. I know at civil ceremonies, I'm not allowed any religious content. So a song like Hallelujah by Leonard Cohen, Jeff Buckley,
you have
Alexandra
to bring
Burke.
up Hallelujah, which we were discussing before. I'm a bit shocked by Leonard Cohen, if I'm honest.
Why?
I mean, and I'm more shocked at the potty mouth of Ms. Burke singing Hallelujah for a winner's song.
Well, even though the song isn't religious...
people might not know this, and for those who do know, I'll be honest, I'm a little bit shocked. Stephen?
Well, the song isn't religious in and of itself, and a lot of people do think it's a religious song, but it's actually about...
What?
Okay.
I think you can say that.
My wife's present. I can't say the word. There might be children watching. I can't say the SDX word.
Children. If there are children, you're going to have to put your fingers in their ears and cover their eyes in case you can lip read.
Okay.
Stephen.
Right. Okay. Trigger warning for all the people who are watching this with children. Hallelujah is not a religious song. It is actually about...
Google it.
Sex! And Jeff Buckley called it an ode to the orgasm. So you can have it in a religious ceremony, but if your vicar isn't clued up about what it's about, then, he might just let you have it. But you can't have it in a civil ceremony, even though it isn't specifically about religious things. The song...
Can't have what in a civil ceremony?
Patrick, you can't have Hallelujah in a civil ceremony because it's got religious references, even though those religious references are tied to abhorrent, what do we call them? Fornication. Even though they're tied to sexual imagery, you can't have it because it's got religious imagery in it as well, and nothing religious is allowed. We should have picked a different example. Hallelujah.
It's kind of a bit of a weird one because it's got a foot in both camps. That
Laura,
song.
Did you pick the example?
I know, I don't have a clue. But anyway, Jackie
I
said...
I didn't pick the example. So there was somebody else on the feed that picked the example. It wasn't me and it wasn't Laura. So I think, Steve, it was you.
I don't know. Just don't blame me. What does Jackie say?
So I'll put Jackie's comment up now. She said that she wrote a poem for her sister's wedding.
Oh, cool.
But the word Lord was in her poem, so she had to change it.
Oh, wow.
Change it. Not allowed to have that.
Yeah, I think they're quite strict. Strict's probably not the right word, but they do like to get it right.
Oh,
sure.
I think we've upset Dimfner. Dimfner says, "Oh my giddy aunt," in an Irish accent. I think we've given her a heart attack.
Do you want some more info about the
Jeff
humanist
Buckley
ceremony?
Yeah, give us some more info about the humanist ceremony, because Chris has been making some quite good comments, hasn't she?
So Christopher says that you can have a humanist ceremony, but you still need to have a registrar and say certain words to each other. It's like a civil ceremony, but it's a little bit more relaxed. A little bit.
Yes, and so you have to have a registrar present in Scotland, but Chris, is this right? So you have to have a registrar present, but the humanist celebrant can actually conduct the ceremony, whereas all of the humanist ceremonies that I've been to in England, and I've been to a fair few, they haven't been legally binding, and the registrar hasn't been present. The only example that I had was where a humanist celebrant came and did the ceremony after the registrar did the legal part. So the registrar kept it to around about 10 minutes of all the legal things they had to say to each other, and then the humanist celebrant took over from there.
Yeah, so what he's saying is that in Scotland you just have the humanist there, and that's legal. Because in Scotland, the land doesn't actually have to be registered to be able to hold a wedding, and that's why they can get married in the mountains. Apparently,
I didn't know
that. The laws are different.
I
That's
didn't know that
interesting.
either. There you go.
They were thinking of changing that over here in England, weren't they, to make it a little bit more accessible for most people to get married in most places. But I don't know how far down they are with the line with that. But basically, it is actually split into civil ceremony and religious ceremony. Now, Pat, here's an interesting question, because when people look at you, they say wedding host and DJ. They might not understand what the term wedding host means, but they definitely understand the term DJ, so they're likely to attach the term DJ to you. What is a DJ doing at a ceremony in the first place? Do you get your decks out and like lighting?
I do get my decks out. Actually, genuinely do. We tend to use a more discreet setup than you would do at night time. And it tends to be the same setup you'd use when you're hosting a wedding. But I'll do one of two things. I'll either facilitate somebody else playing music through my system. So it could be yourself, or a singer, or a guitarist, or anyone that needs to be amplified, a sax player. Or I actually play the music for the couple. So I will actually be playing the music for them at the given times.
So rather than thinking of it as a DJ thing, it's as a host, you have all the relevant kind of gear and equipment to be able to facilitate the music for them.
Yeah, and about getting the right system, right sound system in there, and discreetly having the right quality of sound in the room. And don't misunderstand this. The venue themselves, or most venues, will have a system probably built in most venues where they will be able to play music. I have no monopoly in the playing of music at a wedding venue, but it's very, very much worth checking. I did have a venue where I was a guest at a wedding in West Yorkshire, and the sound system they had was like a 1990s, early 1990s bedroom hi-fi system.
Was it a boombox?
And no, not even. It was like with two tiny little wired speakers.
Oh, I love that.
And it just sounded. You couldn't hear it. You literally couldn't hear it. And it's for that. I just say just check and make sure that you've spoke to the venue about how they're going to play back. Another thing that a lot of venues seem to talk about, because I have with my wife's friends will say to me, when they get married, oh, if I'm not hosting their wedding, could you run me a CD? Yes, absolutely. It's not a problem with CDs, but I think you'll find most venues got the capability to be able to plug in an iPad or an iPhone or whatever.
I'm just
play that way.
Do you know? I'm just imagining this 1990s sound system as a glass cabinet. It's a glass cabinet, right? You open it up and it's got like racks. It's got the amp and then the volume controls and then a 5 CD changer.
No, it's far more disappointing than that. It was basically, if I'm on the screen, about that size. And it was like it was separates in the sense the speakers were tiny and they were kind of bolted onto the side.
Love it.
But they'd separated them and just extended the wires. And In fairness, it just didn't actually work on the day properly. You could hear it if everyone. It was about the loudness of an iPhone, so nobody could actually hear the music at all, including the band. And as I say, that was a very it was a very disappointing ceremony in that sense.
Yeah.
It wasn't well planned. It wasn't well executed. Most of the venues, certainly I work in, that wouldn't happen if the venue were involved in it. But it is worth checking in and making sure that you can get what you want. But yes, it is possible to have your own person there. And one of the advantages of having a wedding host is that it's your person that's there with you from the beginning of the day right the way through. And that is a real benefit when it comes to giving you the confidence that your ceremony music's going to be right.
Okay, so you're talking about, so what you're talking about there is you're talking about you facilitating things in a civil ceremony. That's what you will do. Can you break down what are the main, not in terms of music, but what are actually the main sections of the legal part of a civil not the legal part of a civil ceremony, sorry, but what are the main
Don't
sections
do that to me, Stephen.
of a civil what are the main sections of a civil ceremony? How does it work?
Of the music.
Not the music.
So,
no, not the music. Just how does a civil ceremony in itself work? What are the main sections?
So first of all, you'll have your guests arriving and being seated. Sometimes you might want to sit the bride's guests on one side and the groom's guests and family on the other side. More commonly these days, people tend to mix that. It can be good in the sense mixing. It can be good in the sense that it kind of naturally fills all the seats. If one family and friends is greater than the other in number, it doesn't show that as glaringly as if you had them seated separately.
Okay, so you've got the arrivals of all of the guests. Mm-hmm. They're seated. Where do we go from there?
Once we've done that, and obviously that's the bit where we're engaging our ushers. Our ushers are in there sorting that out, making sure people are sitting where they're supposed to be sitting. Beyond that, we then have our arrival for the bride. So the bride, the groomsman, the groom, and the best man will be stood at the front of your aisle, waiting, and then we have the arrival of the bride. Then once obviously the bride has come in generally with her father or the person who's giving her away. He will then he or she will go and be seated, leaving the bride and the groom together. And at that point, then the registrar will conduct the service. You'll then break away to sign the register, and then after the register, they'll do the presentation of the certificate generally. You may have readings in there if you've got your friends and family wanting to read. As you stated before,
but the bare bones is there, isn't it? It's like arrival. You come down the aisle, the legal part, signing of the register, and then going out again, as opposed to a religious ceremony where it will kind of be. Again, I'm going to use this word that I don't want to use, but I can't think of a better word. It's padded out by religious readings, maybe a sermon by the vicar, and civil ceremonies can take half an hour, or whereas a religious ceremony can take an hour or even an hour and a half if the vicar really gets into preachy mode. Just before we move on, what I'm going to say to people is thank you ever so much for your comments. I know Jackie's just said here that she went to a family wedding where they were all mixed together. So you might have a sign outside that says it's a little sort of like nice little poem about you're loved by both of us. So just or choose a seat, not a side. So they were all mixed together. Thank you ever so much for your contributions. Please in the comments tell us what kind of ceremony did you have. Now we've gone through the different types of ceremony that there are, civil and religious ceremonies. What did you have, or what have you got planned? Are you having a religious ceremony in a church? Are you having a humanist ceremony up in the mountains of Scotland like Chris and Victoria did? Or are you having a kind of standard civil ceremony back in your venue? Let us know in the comments and we want to give you a shout out. If you're watching for the first time, tell us that you're new because we want to say hello to you as well. We want to give you a nice big wave and put your comment up on the screen. Now, the last thing I want to say before we move on to how music works in the ceremony is if you type in the comments the word updates, you will get a Facebook message from us giving you the opportunity to opt in to get Facebook Messenger updates when we go live. Now, many of you are already in those updates, so if you already get the updates from us that are quite automatic, don't type in updates because it's no different to what it's been when you get our normal kind of updates. But if you are new and you don't receive Facebook Messenger updates from us, type in updates in the comments and we will send you that Facebook message, which will give you the opportunity to opt in to get messages when we go live. So what we're going to talk about now, I should actually move on to Laura. Have we got anything else in the comments that people that you want to sort of bring up, Laura, or do you want me to give you a bit more time to?
No, it's okay. Sarah's just made a really good point. She thinks that when she gets married, mixing will be a really good idea because his side is a lot bigger. So it can really kind of solve, it can be quite awkward, I think, if you walk down the aisle and on the bride's side there's only a handful and on the groom's side, it can feel quite difficult. So actually mixing can be a really nice thing to do, can't it?
I think it can be a really good. Thing to do. One of the advantages of not mixing, and a lot of people see it as kind of separation, but actually, not mixing and separating your bride's side and your groom's side is not about separation. It's about symbolically bringing them together at the end of the ceremony. When you've made your commitment to each other, that's when the guests will mingle, and so it's a symbolic thing rather than a separation thing. But yet, mixing together is quite common. And if you've got, it made me laugh that I say like his side is a lot bigger. I just imagining Sarah with a couple of aunties on one side and then his side like packed out in a grandstand,
but can't fit into the pews.
And they're all like
they're sat on each other's knees.
and like there's like a million seats over the other side because Sarah's Aunt Ethel is over there going, well, we're on the bride's side, so we're staying over here. Okay,
I've just got one more thing. James said that he had a discussion yesterday at a networking meeting and met a singing celebrant. So that's quite exciting, isn't it?
Is it?
I want to know if it's a musical.
I've worked with a few celebrants, but never a singing celebrant.
I want to do.
Not come across that before.
I want to know. I want to know. About
I want
that.
it to know if it's like a musical thing, like
Dearly beloved,
a ceremony or just a song afterwards.
Please don't take any photographs and put them on social media because the bride and groom have evening guests coming. Please turn off your phone. Do you think it's like that?
I think that's your audition.
Is this a service you're going to start offering, Steve?
Yes. Yes, I'm the singing celebrant at your wedding going, ladies. Oh, and you can have it in different styles as well. So you can have it in a funk style. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, I get like a bass going. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, just put off those phones because, you know, I don't know what I'm doing.
I'm worried now that some people are going to make inquiries, actual commercial inquiries.
Oh, no.
I actually think they will.
Oh, no. Can I just...
Because you've outlined options.
Can I just say, ladies and gentlemen, I am not a singing celebrant. I am merely fascinated by the idea of a singing celebrant.
I'm categorically not either. No, not happening.
No, I do sing, but I don't do celebrant-ishness things.
And we've got Adam Jarrett.
Hey, Adam.
He says that he's got a civil ceremony, no readings, no poems. I was going to say no family.
No Pamela.
No readings, no poems, and the family's mixed.
So he's just
That's his choice.
getting down to
Just do it.
getting it done. Don't want any I don't want any poems or anything like that. Nobody's coming up and reading anything from Captain Corelli's mandolin at my wedding. Thank you very much. Okay, so
Not at all.
moving on.
Hang on, you've got a job.
Oh,
Victoria Lewis, she's going to hire you as her singing celebrant.
come on, Victoria. You have to get married
She's
again.
already married.
She got married with a humanist
She
celebrant
eloped.
up in Scotland.
Maybe she wants to renew her vows.
Ooh, vow
Just
renewal.
at
She's
the
forgotten
thought
about
that
this
you would
already.
do the singing.
There's a market there, isn't there? Okay, so maybe I should sing the rest of this episode. Ladies and gentlemen,
Please.
we're gonna talk about music. Pat, tell us,
Hello.
where do we have music in our ceremony? Civil
So
ceremony.
from the civil, I'll do the civil bit, and you're going to do the religious bit.
I will.
'Cause really, I'm lost on the religious bit. So the civil part, you would have music. Often overlooked is music when your guests are arriving, and it's always safe to say that things very seldom run on time. So I would prepare at least half an hour's worth of music.
Yeah.
Whilst you're getting ready. So that's the first point. And to have songs where, if you've got something that just makes you feel comfortable, obviously the bride isn't going to be hearing these songs; she'll be outside or arriving. So
it's not going to be like freed. It's not going to be like Freed from Desire and Live in Joy and and all that kind of stuff, though, is it?
I've never been in that place yet. No, it's going to be laid back stuff.
Why not?
Probably in keeping with what you're going to use during the ceremony, but songs that nice, relaxing music that helps you get your game on, as it were. After that,
I just love that expression. Get your game on. I love it.
Get my wedding game on. I'm getting my game on.
Get your wedding face on, man. Get your wedding face on.
Keep it in a box. The next part of that is your bride's arrival song. Again, what you'd look to do there is your bride stood outside or is waiting to come in at the point where in the song where she wants to make that entrance, she makes that entrance, and then you would fade the music out as she has arrived at the end of the, I'll call it an altar, the corridor, as it were, the end of the...
we can't call it an altar. We can't call it an altar at... we can't call it an altar at a civil ceremony.
I don't think that's kosher, but we'll call it an altar.
Kosher? Another religious term. Come on, you're knocking him out tonight.
It's the end of the line, that's what it is.
So as she arrives at the front, then we'll fade music out. So you've got that.
I'm going to stop you. Let me just stop you a second.
Signing the register.
Hang on,
Steve, yes.
Yeah, I just want to stop you a second and ask you, what is the most popular song for walking down the aisle? Or would I be better answering that?
I'm going to say, and you're going to grimace as I say it.
Go on.
Can you guess?
I know what I would say. I sing most.
If it's a song that you think you sing it a lot, it is that song, 1,000 Years.
Yes, 1,000 Years,
Seems to be a very common choice.
Or The One by Cordeline. The One by Cordeline is another very popular one. Oh, hang on a minute. Victoria Lewis has corrected us. It's an aisle. You get to the end of the aisle.
Thank you.
Why is it that three wedding professionals are sat in the room and we can't get a simple word like aisle correct? We're nervous.
That's exactly what it is. We're very nervous. So the next part of the music, I'm going to get this done.
Do it.
The next part of the music you can come to is this bit where you're signing the register. Again, registrars will commonly say to you, pick a couple of songs for that. In my experience, pick a couple of songs by all means, but have a third and even a fourth song available because after you've signed the actual register, the registrar will then move you to another area and give you like a false certificate to sign because you can't have photographs of the actual register.
No, that's illegal data. That's a data protection thing, isn't it?
That's what that is. So you then got your guests standing up and taking photographs. Actually, I've got a funny story about this. There was one venue. There were candles, big candles next to this lady, and she set fire to her blazer.
No.
Whilst they were doing that bit, so I not only had to extinguish her jacket and pounce on her and start putting. She didn't feel it. But her jacket had a blazer had blazed, and
if you ever need a better reason to hire Pat at your wedding,
I'm a wedding host.
He will.
He's a firefighter.
He's a firefighting wedding host. Hire Pat and me, and he'll be your firefighting wedding host.
An added safety precaution.
And I'll sing your celebration.
Oh, don't sing Celebration.
No, I didn't say sing celebrate. I'll be a singing celebrant. I'll be. Oh, and now Pat is putting out we didn't start the fire.
So, Pat, did you extinguish the celebrant? Was it the celebrant?
So anyway, you've got your songs. You've got your songs. Your 3, maybe even 4 songs when you're signing the register, and then the other one is your exit song. So, a very common song there. And if you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. Signed, sealed, delivered by Stevie Wonder.
Absolutely.
Whether it's a good song or not, it's certainly upbeat and, it sort of says what's happened. Signed, sealed, delivered. The other thing I'd consider is having another song past that whilst everyone's actually leaving. Because your signed, sealed, delivered at 3.5 minutes, it's going to run out quite quickly. It can be nice just to have something else to finish off. It might not even be something you consider, but if you're preparing a CD or if you're preparing the music for the venue, it's a good thing to just tag another song on the end.
Yeah, so because we got sidetracked by fire stories and stuff like that, let's just break down the civil ceremony, how music works in the civil ceremony. So it's arrival of the guests, then it's a song for walking down the aisle. How many songs during the signing of the register?
3, sometimes 4.
And then the final.
Told 2, but 3, maybe 4, and then your exit track.
Plus a backup track in case there's loads of people who are just taking ages to get out there and get their drinks.
Yeah, and I'm just going to say something else as well. When Laura and I got married,
hang on.
I wasn't actually in the industry when we got married.
Whoa. Hang on. Stop. There's a couple of Lauras.
There's 2 Lauras.
Laura, we are not in
we're not ABBA.
a Mormon style. Right.
Not even Mormon.
Both of our wives are called Laura. That's very confusing.
It's just 2 Lauras. There's no situation.
They're very different. Different Lauras.
Sorry, when you and Laura got married, Laura Mulligan.
Myself and my wife, Laura, not Laura Heath, got married.
Laura Mulligan.
We used the CD player in the venue, which was the very beautiful clay house in Halifax.
Lovely.
And it didn't read the CD that I'd recorded.
Oh, no.
So 2 things. 1, have a spare CD. But 2, if possible, have your music on another device.
Yes.
Ideally prepared on an iPad, because if you prepare it on an iPhone, what I would call Sod's Law dictates that somebody will try and ring you during the ceremony and you'll get blowing out on the speaker. So
this is like 2002 Nokia. Have you got a 2002 Nokia phone?
They were getting married in the 90s.
Hello? Yeah, I'm in a ceremony.
The 6310Is playing.
No, it's rubbish.
That just is the ringtone, though. That's just the ringtone. When you do ringtone, that's it.
That's the Apple ringtone. Oh, I just plugged Apple and Nokia.
Wow.
Nokia isn't even a thing, is it? Right, Laura. Are we going to try and answer this question from Victoria? Go. What she said.
Hang on.
Oh, hang on. Laura's.
We've said a lot of things, so I've just got to find it.
Go on, give us some comments,
Right.
And then I'll go on to the structure of a religious ceremony musically.
There's just a lot of laughing going on.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm glad I put compressors on our thing because okay, right.
So Victoria said she doesn't understand. Why can't you photograph the certificate? Because isn't the wedding certificate public record anyway? So what's the problem?
My best guess on this would be that while it is a public record, in that ceremony, it's for that couple. So it's inappropriate and probably against data protection to have people taking photographs of other people's details during that particular ceremony. If you want to find the public record, you need to go somewhere to find those public records and look them. That's my best guess on it.
But I thought it was the signing of it that was the problem, not the photographing the actual certificate, but photographing the actual act as it was happening.
I think that's
the
no.
Go on,
it's definitely the photographing of the register that's the offence, as it were.
Yes, because what I understand is they take the register and then they just turn over a couple of pages to a completely blank page, and then they get you to look like so it's a completely blank page from there. But I don't know. I think that maybe that's a question to ask a registrar. Do we have any registrars watching this? If there's a registrar watching this, this would be really.
I do have a registrar friend, and you know when you just think to yourself,
where are they?
Patrick, you've got a registrar friend. I do have a registrar friend.
We should have asked them.
So what we'll do in a future feed is we'll invite her to come and join us, I think.
Okay, so John says, John's being controversial. John Steele. What's he said, Laura?
He says that Victoria's right. It's just that the registrars are power mad.
Well,
I just love this idea.
I
Of
don't think that's true, but I think
Ooh.
in
Jo-
my experience, there are a couple that can be a little bit snooty, but actually, they're always really, really lovely.
well, I think every single one of them is extremely professional, and they all do their job. John Steele is like the rebel of the wedding industry. If you want a rebel photographer, get John Steele, because he'll kick the registrar out the way and say, "Damn your rules! I'm taking a picture of the register."
Do what I wish.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about. Have we got any more comments that you want to put up there, or is it just generally lots of people making laughy faces?
Everyone's just laughing.
Any registrars watching, make yourself known and please confirm for us whether it's data protection or whether in fact you are power mad.
Especially, please, if you're the singing celebrant.
Oh,
we
where
need
is-
that person
Jim.
on our feed.
The singing celebrant, that's just where we need to be in life.
James needs to find the singing celebrant. James, can you please send us a link of the singing celebrant, because I want to hear whether she's kind of like a rock singer, a pop singer, musical theatre,
There's too many questions.
Tuvian throat singing. Imagine if you had a Tuvian throat singing humanist celebrant. That would be incredible. Have you ever seen it? Have you ever seen a Tuvian throat singer? Shall I move on?
I want to know what one is, but I can Google. It's all right. I'll Google.
Tuvian throat singing. You must Google it. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the music in the religious ceremony, which is actually very similar to the civil ceremony in that you have music as guests are arriving, and then walking down the aisle, signing of the register and going out. But you've got the added thing of that most times they have hymns in ceremonies as well, and that'll usually be played by an organist or in more do we say laid back churches? They'll allow you to play whatever they want. I mean, I led an entire congregation in singing "It Must Be Love" by Madness once, but I have got. Can I share a story with you about?
Oh, please.
Oh, you want to hear a story? You got to tell your putting the fire out story.
I'm just trying to find. While you're talking, I'm trying to find my registrar friend. I'm going to message her. Go on, you tell us the story, please.
Is this Claire? And I don't want to say your name wrong, Claire. Can we put Claire's comment up there? Is this Claire, the humanist celebrant who married Christopher and Victoria? And if she's from Scotland, so we got to say, hello there.
Hello.
Hello there, Claire. Are you right?
Yes, let's just patronise all my Scottish friends. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm really.
He just likes practicing the accent. That's all it is.
I do. Oh, that's Irish. Hang on.
Oh no, Stephen's broken.
Slap him. Claire, are you a singing celebrant? She says, I don't think it can be data protection. There are no problems photographing the marriage schedule in Scotland.
Do you know, shall we just move to Scotland? Because there's no rules.
They're all a bunch of liberals, aren't they? They just have haggis and whiskey in their ceremonies. That's all they do. Okay, so...
All I'm going to say is, wow, just wow.
Wow, just wow.
Wow.
So...
Wow, that's how you feel. Wow.
So, what was I talking about?
Alison Herrick is my friend. I'm just trying to tag her now. She will let us know.
Are you still on your microphone?
Tell us a story.
Oh, yes, you are on your microphone. I was just checking you were still on the microphone. Okay, guys, right, I'm going to tell you the story, right? So I was at a ceremony in a Unitarian church last year, and I played the bride down the aisle. The groom didn't know I was booked, so it was a surprise, and I got up there, and I played the bride down the aisle, and then the minister, who was very good...
Sorry.
What?
How do you play a bride?
How do I play a
Has
bride?
it got 4 strings or 6?
Generally, you know, you just pick her up and give her a strum. So this is descending into madness. Right. Okay. So, are we losing viewers here? Right. So anyway.
No, we're gaining viewers. This is good.
So there's suddenly a massive drop. Who are these two clowns? Right, so the bride comes down the aisle, and then the minister, who was a very good orator, he did a, dearly beloved, we are gathered here today. He said, we are now going to sing our first hymn, All Things Bright and Beautiful. And he turned to me, and he just gave me a very solemn nod. And I went, Am I meant to be playing this song? And he went, mm-hmm. so I stood up with my guitar. And I stood up with my guitar and I thought, okay, school assembly, all things bright and beautiful. It must be an A. And I started playing All Things Bright and Beautiful. And
Steve, did you actually sing it as well?
I didn't have the words in front of me, so they all had hymn sheets. So I
you
sort
should
of
have
like,
had me there.
so I
You
sort
didn't
of like
sing about the purple-headed mountain, did you?
I sort of backed. I'm not even going to go there, right? But I backed off and let everybody else sing it, and I was sort of guessing the chords. And the bride she turned to her bride. She told me this after the ceremony. She turned to her bridesmaid and she went, "He's not meant to be playing this song. We're just meant to be singing without any accompaniment." And so she was holding her nose, and she was like trying to keep from laughing. And it was thankfully it was the only hymn, because I was like, the next song was something like, I must jet planes meeting in the air to be. Do you remember that song from school assembly? Jet planes meeting in the air to be refueled. All these things I love so well, but I mustn't forget. To say a great big thank you, guys. Okay, right. So I played All Things Bright and Beautiful at somebody's wedding when I wasn't supposed to, and that was very funny. It was quite nerve-wracking as well, but I got most of the chords right, and nobody noticed any difference. So Jackie's wondering what's in the Pepsi. It's Diet Pepsi. Oh, hang on, I just showed the Pepsi can. It's a Wed Chat mug I should be showing. Okay, so guys, right, so we might have a couple of
all society, Steve. Can I just do this just quickly?
Go on. Thank you.
They should have applauded loudly at the time, and I don't think they would have done. I think they'd have just gone with it. Oh,
yeah, but
what he's doing.
Do you know what? I was just so. I was just
on behalf of them, that congregation, and the rest of us. That's brilliant.
I was so good at pulling it off. Like nobody knew any different. They all thought, "Oh, this guy's meant to be playing it," and I was like, "So you know, if you have a wedding,
who knew ceremonies could be so much fun?
Who knew? Who knew indeed? Okay, so what's Nikita said, Laura?
Okay, so Nikita said that at her mum's wedding in the register office, they were allowed to take pictures of them with the register book, but could not picture or film them signing the register. So that's kind of like the same as what you've been saying.
I think it's got to be a data protection thing. If somebody wants to find that out on Google and then like put it in the comments, that would be really, really useful. Okay, so
we should have maybe done that before we went live. Just saying.
Okay.
I guess we're experts in the field.
Maybe we should actually research. Maybe we should actually research these programs before we do them. We've got to get a better researcher.
Dog, tell me which one.
I think the dog could have done a better research job than we did. But never mind.
He's not laughing. That's for sure.
Hi, Laurie. Good to see you. Hi, Nikita. Good to see you as well. Okay, so we're still talking about music in the ceremony. So tell me this.
To ask you a question, Stephen.
You were going to ask me a question.
Stephen,
go.
I was going to ask you a question, Stephen. The music in a religious ceremony, what would you have that's slightly different?
Now that's an interesting question, because it really does depend on who the leader in the church is. Now, the Church of England is the place where I've done most of the religious ceremonies that I've done, and it is such a vast expanse of different kind of doctrines and teachings. You can get very kind of straight-laced, if you like, Church of England churches that are very traditional, what people might call bells and smells, and then you can get other types of Church of England churches which are a little bit more loose, a little bit more relaxed. So this is actually about having a conversation with your vicar beforehand, or the reverend, or whatever they call themselves, the pastor or whatever, and saying to them, what kind of music do you allow? Because if they are more of a traditional church, the church leader might say, we only allow the organ player to come in and do traditional hymns, and you've got to pick them from this specified list. But in the overwhelming majority of cases, and this is probably just confirmation bias because I'm at those weddings, they're quite relaxed. So you want to pick something that's kind of like in the background, nice romantic songs as people arrive. I usually do about 10-15 minutes before, and the only thing I say to my bride and groom is, I only want your aisle song from you. People don't want to be necessarily mixed up in picking lots of different types of songs. they don't want to be mixed up in picking lots of songs for the ceremony. So a lot of my brides and grooms, they kind of leave it to me, and I'm happy to do that to set the right kind of atmosphere. So one I like to play, for example, All of Me by John Legend. I might play that one as guests are arriving, if they haven't chosen to come down the aisle too. Another one might be Annie's Song. Is a really nice song to have by John Denver. What sort of stuff have you played in civil ceremonies?
Oh, really broad mix. I mean, it tends to be if someone's committed to having a wedding host that they've actually had a reason to. So they tend to think, if I'm conducting the ceremony part of it, it tends to be they've really, really put thought into it, and it tends to be quite broad and diverse. But I've literally had quite a lot of string quartet stuff, so string quartet covers.
It's great, yeah. That's
if
great.
anyone's looking for string quartet stuff, the pre-recorded stuff, Vitamin String Quartet, VSQ, are very, very, very good. I actually had once somebody come into "Smells Like Teen Spirit" by Nirvana.
No,
but the string quartet version of it. And for the vast majority of people, it was just posh karaoke. And for the rest of them, it was, "Oh, isn't this a lovely song? I've not heard it before. What is it, darling?" I don't know. But it sounds beautiful.
Is it by Bach?
And yeah, it sounds beautiful.
Yes,
beautiful. Very nice song.
Kurt Cobain. Laurie said here.
So it can be very broad.
Laurie's just said your song by Elton John. Great song to start with. Great choice.
Beautiful song.
Okay, and just to cut you off there for a second while we talk about the song choices, if you want to get updates when we go live, and that's not just for Wed Chat but also for Wed Sounds Request Show on a Sunday at 8 p.m, type the word updates in the comments and we'll send you a private Facebook message in which you can opt in, and then we'll send you messenger updates before and when we're going live as well. If you're already opted into those updates, you don't need to type the word updates, but if you want to, you can type the word updates into the comments section. She Loves You by the Beatles. Great choice, Laurie. Is that a little bit upbeat for a ceremony, Pat?
Possibly. I tell you what I do like. All You Need Is Love as people are leaving.
Great.
Works really well.
Yep.
I've got a memory in the back of my head about Mitten Hall in the middle of a really, really hot summer with the doors wide open, and It Must Be Love playing. And I just left it playing on and on and on as people drifted out. And it just kind of sort of filled the air. That was really nice.
That's a lovely song. The classic you mentioned earlier is Signed, Sealed, Delivered, I'm Yours, isn't it? By Stevie Wonder.
Yep. And it's a great song. It's again, trying to avoid, it's this thing of making it your wedding. You don't want to play songs that, have been played at other weddings necessarily you've been to recently or other people might have been to. But try and think about songs that are a little bit unique, and try and put your own spin on it. I say a good way of playing a song that maybe you wouldn't have played, for example, Smells Like Teen Spirit. I think the same. Something in the back of my head says that the same bride had "Sweet Child of Mine," also by Vitamin String Quartet during the sign in the register. But it means that might be another way, or get an acoustic version of a track.
Yeah.
So that you can actually play something you really do like. So when you mentioned jokingly before, like Gala Freed from Desire, it maybe is possible to have a song version. Obviously, check the lyrics.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, sorry?
Absolutely check the lyrics of things, because registrars might ask what songs are you going to have as well, especially if you're having a civil ceremony, because they want to check that there's no religious content in those as well. One of the most common ones that people come out to with me is not just Signed, Sealed, Delivered, I'm Yours. That's kind of like a standard track. If people are struggling, I'll point them towards that. But another one is Better Together by Jack Johnson. Really nice acoustic song. That's a great song. One, yeah. So, Pat, when you're planning with your couple, so I mentioned earlier that I say to people when it comes to the ceremony, the bare minimum I ask for is just the song to walk down the aisle. I can sort out the rest if you want to. Are you a little bit more in depth with that when you come to plan with your couples?
A little bit, yeah. And again, I'm flexible. I can go away and come up with some ideas for them, and I do that from time to time. But actually, in my experience, I would say most of them have got a good idea of what they want. They certainly know what they're going to come into and what they're going to leave to. And if there's any ambiguity, it can be around the music before people, your arrival song, your guest arrival songs, or your register songs. They can be a little ambiguous sometimes, but generally, they've got a fairly good idea of what they want to have, in my experience.
We've got some great comments here on what people had. Go on, Laura.
So, Tracy said that...
Are we allowed to laugh before you read these, Laura? Are they fun? Are any
I
of these...
don't know.
Am I going to find it struggle
Tracy
to
wouldn't
hold
mind
this in?
if you laugh. Tracy said that her cousin had Bat Out of Hell.
Like I've heard of hell. Hey, Chelsea.
She said it's not sure it
Sorry
was
to
the right
laugh.
price, right choice, but it gave her a giggle. And someone had Party Rock anthem.
Yeah.
Laura's
Every
on
day
there.
I'm shuffling.
Oh, yeah, Party Rockers.
And Duster said her walk down the aisle was Paul Sturkey's song, Whenever Two or More of You Are Gathered in His Name.
Oh, I
So
don't think I've
that's
heard
nice.
that song.
But Sarah Brunning suggesting I Will Survive.
I will
It's a
survive.
good tune.
Okay, what's
But
the...
hang on, we've
Is
just
that a
got...
divorce song?
I do have to add, we've got some more information about the controversy about registrars.
Oh, after Victoria Googled it, didn't she?
Great,
Yeah.
fantastic.
Victoria's Googled it. It's not data protection,
Ooh.
so registrars are either misinformed or looking for an excuse, she reckons.
Oh.
But having said that, if they say no, you've kind of got to go along with it because it's their ceremony.
Right, listen, what did you have as your walking down the aisle song? To everybody tell us, or what are you going to have as your walking down the aisle song? Please tell us in the comments and tell us about your experiences of what type of ceremony that you had as well. We're really grateful for the interaction this evening. Laurie's made a fantastic suggestion. Crazy Train by Ozzy Osbourne. Going
Wow.
off the rails on a crazy train. I'm loving that
I'm
one.
glad you sang that because I didn't know what that was.
It was on
so you
Megamind.
sang it. Yeah.
Megamind is an absolutely quality film. I love it.
And Dipna saying she had the Radeski March.
What's that?
I
Can you sing
don't
it for us in the
know.
comments? It goes like dun 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 dun.
I have it. We shouldn't be playing pre-recorded music.
Oh
though,
no,
should we? So
Facebook will put
won't
us in
like
Facebook
it.
prison. If you do you know what it is though?
we'll put a link up.
Can
Put a
you
link
hum it?
up.
Can you hum it?
No,
back?
Pat, you sing it because then Facebook will definitely not recognise it.
Hi!
I went there, baby.
You meanie.
I'm going to be singing classical songs.
Go on, do it. The Radeski March. What is it? Go, do it. Do it.
I honestly, mate, I can't remember. It'll be on there. It's definitely.
I think we need to get Dimphna into the next broadcast via Skype, and she can sing it to us in a dulcet Irish
Singing your
tones.
classical favourites.
Oh, she's singing
Stephen
it.
Eve.
She's doing
here
it.
we go.
Apparently, it goes da 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 da. Ooh, Marie says, "What about
da 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 da
da
da?
da 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 da?" Is that the one?
It's not that.
Da,
It's
da,
not
da.
that. It's not that.
I don't know.
That's a nice one, though. Marie,
Go on.
she says, what about
I'll
Right
go
Said
look.
Fred, I'm too sexy?
I'm too sexy for this ceremony. Too sexy for this ceremony. Too sexy, it hurts.
Are people joking now or are people serious? I
I
need a
think-
comment on that.
I
Is
think-
that serious? or
I'm
is that
pretty
joke?
sure it's serious.
It's deadly
Pat.
serious. Marie
Yeah.
and Lee are going to come. Marie's going to she's going to walk down the aisle and she's going to do a sexy little turn on the catwalk. On the catwalk. On the catwalk. She shakes a little tush on the catwalk. Boom, 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 boom. Okay,
Grandma's going to be there. Please don't.
they're just going to have to cope with it. It's their ceremony. If they want to come down to Deeply Dip, if they want to come down to Deeply Dippy by Right Said Fred, then that's absolutely fine. I had a friend whose brother got married, and he walked out to I Believe in a Thing Called Love by The Darkness.
Great song, by the way.
Yeah, and they did this really good thing where at the point where The Darkness sang Everything is A-OK, they turned and gave the big Darkness thumbs up to everybody, which I thought was a really good little touch.
Oh,
Okay, so let's sum up here, unless anybody's got anything else they want to say. Just say one more thing as well. Guys, if you want to get updates through Messenger when we go live, please type updates in the comments, and we will send you a private Facebook message, which will allow you to opt in to get updates through Facebook Messenger when we go live. Not not just for Wed Chat, but also for Wed Sounds. So it'd be great to see many of you typing that in the comments now. Have you put that up on screen?
I did.
Chris Cooper's watching as well. Hi, Chris. Good to see you.
Hi, Chris.
Chris, we're talking about ceremonies and being a wedding host and a DJ yourself. Tell us about your ceremony experiences. Or a more targeted question at Chris would probably be, what did you walk down the aisle to when you got married? So just let
Chris
us know.
isn't married.
Oh.
What will you walk down the aisle to?
Oh, will you?
Good save. High five.
I was thinking,
Good save.
no, he's not married. Save the boy. Save him.
Laura did a great save there. That was really good. I was making assumptions there. I was making assumptions. Yeah, good to see you, Chris. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you think this is valuable content, please give it a share. And as we sum up, please give us your comments in the comment section. We'll put a couple more comments up before we finish. We're only meant to be going live for half an hour. We've been live for like nearly an hour now.
I know.
We've just got so much to say about ceremonies.
I think we've got too much laughing. That's the thing. If we cut out all the laughing, it probably
We just
is
need to
half
edit
an
all
hour.
that out.
We
It'll
just,
be
yeah,
fine.
we need to cut it all.
It'll be
Chris has
fine.
just said,
when we actually finally post this live, it'll be fine when it's all edited up. That's
Chris,
how it works, right?
Chris has just said it's awkward. And then he's actually tagged Ashley. This is
Yeah. So
very awkward.
you and Ashley.
But listen, Pat, I just want us to
Yes.
kind of like pull all of this nonsense together now and bring the and let's bring it into a summary. So my first question to you would be: can you just quickly, very very quickly, summarise the music and the structure of a civil ceremony?
Right, so you're needing a few pieces of music for your ceremony. The
Yep.
first piece of music or pieces of music is for your guests' arrival, where your guests are arriving. You've got 20 minutes to half an hour there as people are in there settling down.
Arrival.
The next part is your bride arrival. So your bride's going to come down the aisle. Thank you, Victoria. And that's going to be the piece of music that's playing while she's walking down the aisle.
Yep.
The next music is when the register is being signed. You'll need 2 or 3 pieces of music there. I would actually say 4. You don't know how long it takes elderly relatives to set their cameras up on their phones. And then you've got your leaving track as well. And as we mentioned before, depending on how long it is, it can be nice just to have another song ready on the back of that just to play out on. Or another little hint on that, if you're playing something like, for example, Signed, Sealed, Delivered, I'm Yours, you could play maybe the acoustic version of it afterwards. It's kind of like a reprise.
Yep.
Or you could maybe play a string quartet version of it.
Did you just,
on the end
did
of
you
it,
just use the
while
word
your guests are
reprise?
filtering out.
Did you just say reprise? Isn't it reprise?
Reprise? Is it reprise? I've always called it reprise.
It's
That's
one of
really
those.
awkward.
It's one of those songs. It's
You've
one of
gotta
those
ring
words.
the number. You've got to ring the number.
Yeah, we're talking about there should be an anonymous number, like an anonymous call number that you can ring when you've only seen a word written down and then you said it out loud and then to actually pronounce
This
it. But
is something that exists in the BBC. Did you know that?
Is
There's
it?
an actual pronunciation department in the BBC you can ring up.
Wow.
Fact.
we need to join
That is a fact, fans.
So that is the breakdown of a civil ceremony. It's very much the same in a religious ceremony. So you've got music while the guests arrive, walking down the aisle. But the only difference with a religious ceremony is you might have a couple of hymns in there, or if your church leader allows it, the music can be led by a string quartet or a band or whatever. And then you've got signing of the register songs and then walking back up the aisle as well. Just summarise for us very quickly, Pat, as well, the way we would go about choosing those songs. What advice would you give to brides in bullet point form for us? Go.
Think about something that is congruent to you. So think about songs that you actually have an experience of, songs that you really, really love, and songs that mean something to your relationship with each other. So not just something that's a nice song, something that actually means something to you, the songs from when you first met. Extend that, by the way, into your first dance. And the other thing to mention on that is if Steve Heath is singing at your religious ceremony,
Humanist.
make sure that the priest or vicar throws him under the bus with a bit of kumbaya or all things like.
Oh, kumbaya's no problem. Kumbaya's no problem. You want to catch me out, just give me like a really old-time hymn because they're really difficult to play.
Or school assembly song.
Yeah, school assembly songs, they're all up there. They come back. The thing with school assembly songs is they come back to you very, very quickly. Okay, guys, has anybody else got anything? Christopher Lewis is saying he wants his top badge, please. I think, Chris, you need to actually email Mark Zuckerberg.
Just keep commenting, Chris.
Just keep commenting. Spam
Interject
us.
as much as your wife. You'll be fine. You'll be there in no time.
Okay, guys. Has anybody got any other Have you got any other comments that you want to share with us before we sign off, Laura?
I don't think so. I think
Apart from Chris wanting his top fan badge.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Laurie. Her niece is getting married in November 2019.
Yeah,
and
but she's got two. She's got two nieces getting married.
one in 2020 as well. She's getting married in 2020.
Yeah.
And okay, so what's this? Dimfner says, "Let me know you can hum my favourite Radetzky march by Strauss. Andre Rieu plays it." Okay, we'll find. I think we should open the next show with that. I think that should be our Wed Chat theme, don't you?
Me singing it. Can we open the...
I think that would get you. I think that would get you an awful lot of bookings if you sang it, Pat.
Oh, if anyone's interested, Victoria's put the link to her wedding, a humanist ceremony. So if anybody's interested,
Oh, she's a right show off, isn't she?
Is it the video?
Well, no, it's helpful actually.
It's the video, yeah.
Yeah, because that might really kind of fit for some people.
Okay, last chance. Type updates in the comments if you want to get Facebook Messenger updates from us when we go live. We will send you a Facebook message allowing you to opt in, and then every time we go live, Wed Chat Live on a Thursday at 8:30, Wed Sounds Live on a Sunday at 8 p.m. We will send you a Messenger update to say we are live at that time. Thank you to everybody. Oh, have we got something else?
Quick question. Tracy would like to know what's covered next week. Do you know?
Tracy,
what's covered next week?
I think Tracy's our secret producer in the comment section.
Yeah, she's great.
In
Could
TV
you make
studios.
yourself more conspicuous then? If we've got an actual producer, I'd like that.
Yeah, because usually you'd have an earpiece in and she'd go, you've forgotten to tell them about what you're doing next week. But there she is in the background, sort of going, oh, wouldn't it be nice if we all knew what we were covering next week? So what we're going to do next week is we're actually going through the different sections of the wedding. So we've done ceremonies this week. Next week, we're going to look at what choices have you got for your drinks reception and wedding meal. Afternoon music, we're going to go through all the choices, how the heck afternoon music works, what questions to think of, everything like that. So make sure that you tune in for Wed Chat Live next week, and it won't just be me with a Wed Chat Live mug.
I've got one.
But Laura,
I'll have one too.
well, if we meet up and we actually I actually remember to give you the the mug, but I'm sure I will by next time. I'm going to drive around your house now, Pat, and give it to you, just so that you've got it. Guys, thank you very much for watching.
That is right.
We've got Wed Sounds Live at 8 o'clock on Sunday, and we are making an announcement about live dates. Woo!
Woo!
Join in the
Not the
enthusiasm
live
with me,
dates.
here, guys. Come on,
Did I
I'm
say
going,
too much?
woo, and they're sat there going,
Yay!
uh.
Nah, my brain was thinking about something else.
We've got live dates to announce where you can come and see me and Pat live. It's going to be a banging night, and I'm not going to tell you any details about it until Sunday. Sunday at 8 p.m. Watch us on Wed Sounds Live. It's goodbye from me, and it's goodbye from Laura,
Goodbye from him.
Goodbye.
and it's goodbye from Patrick as well.
Goodbye.
Thanks very much for watching, guys, and we'll see you later. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.